everybody, and welcome back to Becoming Branches. Are you a victim?
I don't want to be, but sometimes I let myself be.
Guys, that's what we're talking about. We're talking about the victim mentality. And if you were with us last episode, we got pretty cool, kind of deep. I'm kind of nervous. Are we getting deep? Are we getting into more stuff? Am I a victim? Am I going to push blame?
Yeah.
Let's get into it.
Like we mentioned in the episode, it's really easy. So if you were distracted in last episode because of a creaking sound, it's not our responsibility.
No, it's this chair.
Chairs.
That's not my fault.
We're not.
It's this chair you gave.
We're not murdering any cats or anything like that.
What kind of a cat sounds like that? You're maybe a cow.
Yeah, we've talked about how you had some pretty awesome impressions. So I'm sorry if I don't live up to your impression standards.
I just happen to know what a cat sounds like.
So, all right. So we're talking about victim mentality.
Yep.
So I'm going to throw some scenarios by you.
All right, man.
Some examples. So hopefully maybe clarify what we're talking about. And let me know if any of these ring a bell.
Okay.
So let's say a parent with a victim mentality's child gets in a fight at school.
Okay.
I have actually gone through this as a principal and as a teacher. I've lived this.
We're going to get insight here.
Yes.
We're going to get insight.
It wasn't their fault. It's because the teacher wasn't watching the room and the other kid had it coming and someone else told him to hit him. So their child didn't do anything wrong or doesn't need to take any responsibility. He is just a victim. Ever heard or seen anything like this before?
Well, as maybe a student from that perspective, but definitely not a teacher or administrator from your perspective. So when you're in the classroom, you've heard the other kids say, do it, and they're egging you on. And I guess in some way, as the kid, that does give you kind of a validation. Yeah. You're like, oh, well, they were pushing me to do it. And all of a sudden, you're making up these reasons. But I'm really interested from an administrative point of view. Yeah. Can you give me some examples of what happened with you?
Man, obviously I'm not going to use any names.
But I get in the description below. I'm just joking.
I did have a kid as a principal. We really tried to do a lot.
What size is your school?
3,300.
Okay.
3,300. Okay. So, but we really tried to help this young man. Try to offer anger management, counseling, these types of things. And it was his third fight.
Okay.
And a kid who, now granted, a kid came and sat by him who should not have been there. He should not have been there. But this kid, the kid who had the victim mentality, spits in this kid's face. Right? And so I'm talking with his parents. I'm walking them through, and they're like, well, the kid shouldn't have been there. I'm like, granted, yes, we've agreed on this point. I was like, but it didn't have to escalate. Like, he could have come and got a teacher, which I know who a high school kid wants to do that.
Yeah.
I understand that. He could have got up and walked away. He could have just sat there. They could have talked. I mean, there was not any threat. The kid was asking, it all stemmed from a girl. So this kid's asking him questions about a girl, and he didn't like the questions, and so the kid spit in this kid's face. And even after showing the video to the mom and dad, it was still, well, he shouldn't have been there. And you wonder, like, man, where does this come from? But I remember once, even this is not just public school, Christian school. As a principal at a Christian school, I had a kid who got a warning for running in the hallway. And it wasn't me, a teacher had given, and the parents wanted to come and talk to me about the incident. I was like, okay, I wonder what this is about, because the kid didn't get any punishment. It was just a warning for running in the hallway.
And that's more like hey, we talked about it.
Right. And so they wanted to know why their kid was wrongly accused of running in the hallway. And I was like, well, have you spoken with the teacher? They're like, no, we haven't. I'm like, well, Matthew 18, right? Jesus puts out, if you're offended by this or something, I wasn't there. It's best that you talk to the teacher. They didn't want to do that. And so so the kid finally comes out. He confesses there in front of mom and dad that, yes, I was running. And so I'm like, okay, this is over. This is great. But no, like, well, there's probably a reason that you were running. And they're like, well, my friend so-and-so did this. And it turns out he wasn't even where he was supposed to be. And so the warning bell rang and he took off running. So he wasn't late. He was just walking around the school. And after I finally got him to admit to that, it was still like, he goes, I just like to take different paths sometimes. And mom was like, I believe him. And I think he should take different paths. And I was like, and I did what a principal should not do. And I said, I'm not going to join you in enabling your son. I'm sorry. And I ended the meeting. So not advice for principals to do that. I was a rookie. But anyways, it was just like one of those things like, how do we come to this level of this victim mentality?
Right.
Of like, well, he should be able to walk whatever way he wants to. No, he should walk to class.
Right.
Those types of things. So sorry, I went on a long tangent on that.
No, it's good stuff.
You got me going.
It's just an insight. And not who. I mean, there's a small part of us who are principals, or teachers. So that's good. You got to think of a parent. Okay, are you defending your kid? Do you and the kid have a bad relationship? So it's like, Mom, you didn't go to bat for me. I mean, it could be a lot of things why you were playing that card.
Yeah.
And
I don't want to be like, oh, I can't believe this happened. I was shocked at the level that it was taking place. Mm-hmm. But it's just a reminder of, man, how easily you, me, anybody can slip into that.
Sure.
Honestly, especially when our kids are involved, I think. Because, this is our prized position, right? We love them. And for us, they may not do terrible things, but there are humans and they have hearts that are wicked. Every single one.
It almost sounds like there's a fine line between, again, victim mentality and you're rationalizing.
Yeah.
And it's just like that when we sin. How often do we rationalize a sin? And it's all wrapped up together. Yeah. It is. It's very close and all wrapped up together.
So I'll take a step out of the classroom.
Okay.
Maybe we'll go to a workplace. So,
all right.
If you do not get the promotion, it's because Mr. Johnson, the boss, was out to get you. It wasn't because he found you playing on the internet every day. You are the victim, and after all, he never liked you from the beginning, and you knew it.
I've heard this a lot. I've been in manufacturing jobs over the years. And this has happened so many times. A team lead spot was open or a shift lead spot was open. And if they didn't get it, it's because manager liked person A and everyone on the floor knew it.
I know it. Everybody knows it.
And person A shouldn't even have deserved it. That is a classic you didn't take responsibility action of look at your faults before you do anything. It's just like, hey, take that speck out of your eye before.
Right.
It really is.
Get the log in your
Get the log, but you can't see the speck. Exactly. Of your brothers. And that's what it comes down to is you immediately cast on other people's
blame shift.
Exactly. And you don't look in that mirror. Mm-hmm. In fact, one of my bosses I've had over the years, he was really cool. And during reviews, he was, if you had perhaps a poor review, and he would have these list of things that he had a view of over the years of, I've noticed you talking, or I've noticed you this, that, and the third, or whatever. But the last thing on his recommendation to get better was look in the mirror. Examine yourself. I thought that was awesome because how often, again, are we looking inward of like, okay, what have I done? And we don't. We don't look at the mirror. We'll point the mirror other places. You look at yourself. But and we encourage people to look at themselves. But when it comes to us doing that one-on-one, hey, I need to focus or I need to take blame. It's not there.
I've lived right there. I've been passed up I remember the first time I was a teacher and there was an instructional coach position, and that's the person who trains teachers. And I had put in, this is my first, the minimum was 5 years experience. And I went to the person, I was like, how strong are you on that 5 year? So I was fresh out of college and I thought I did really well. My AP, I was able to increase the school's AP scores by a lot. And I'm like, I'm pretty good at this teaching thing. I could help other people. And so I put in for it. And, the person who got the job had been teaching for 15 years, that type of thing. And I'm like, oh, they just didn't want me because yada, yada, yada. Or, they already had a close relationship with that teacher. They've been here longer. And it's like, dude, you've only been teaching for a year. That's legitimate. You should not have gotten that job.
Right.
But I couldn't take responsibility of hey, I still have a lot to learn before I can go out and teach a whole bunch of people.
Right.
And I wasn't at that point of taking that responsibility.
Right.
I just wanted to blame shift on all these reasons why I didn't get the
job.
Sometimes
you need that person in your life. A lot of times it's your spouse. Christina will I have a
tell you how it is.
No, I do. I have a tendency of looking at a new career opportunity or a new opportunity, and unfortunately, I will start picking it apart before I get my feet wet at the job. And she will generally sit down with me and say, "You haven't even started this. You're going to be trained for this. You're going to be fine. Just don't freak out yet. Just settle down." And so you need someone in your life that will tether you, like you were saying before. You can't just let them wander and say it's okay. You got to ground them down and be like, hey.
Maybe not smack people, but.
Oh, that's what she does to me.
Yeah, no doubt. No, like this whole sidebar, but I had my mentor once tell me, 3 years in a new job, you need to give it 3 years.
Wow.
Unless God really, you feel God pulling you or leading you in a specific direction. It's like, because year 3, that's about the time you finally have a grasp on a new job.
Yeah.
It's in year 3.
Yeah.
And you have an idea about it. So it's like,
man, I wish I would have known that. I would have, man. I got to like minute 3 and I'm like,
I don't like this.
I'm like,
get me out of here.
Yeah. I start to melt down like mentally and year 3. So I'm going to write that down and not be a victim about that.
There you go. So, we've been talking about this victim mentality. And so I'm sure you've seen it and you may have even lived it. Like I said, I will be the first one to tell you that I have lived in a victim mentality. One of the worst things, I have not been, in my past, I was not a good husband. And when I was confronted with a sin in my marriage, the first thing I did was blame my past and blame certain things about either what had happened to me or things I had observed in my own father, which is a great dad and a great husband. But that was the first place I went.
Yeah.
And one, because I think, two, we mentioned the attention and validation. In this case, I wasn't wanting the attention. I wanted to cover my shame. I knew that I had made a wrong choice. But in blame shifting, I took that attention off of what I had done wrong and put it somewhere else. And I was just trying to protect my ego, trying to protect my pride, and being able to come forward and say, I messed up bad. Right,
because you don't want to have that exposure. No one wants that. It might be a crude phrase, and I apologize, but you've been caught with your pants down kind of thing. And because at that moment, you're so, it's like this embarrassing, oh my gosh. But the thing to do, it's embarrassing. You don't want to do it. So what you do, you cover it up with either lies or you shift and you're like, oh, anything but get your eyes off me. Get your eyes off my nakedness. Get your eyes off this. But the only thing to do in that situation is, yes, exactly right. I've done this. And I'm exposed. Let's talk, but nobody wants to do that, right? I mean,
it's also the term self-preservation kind of kicks in because you naturally do not want to face a tough consequence,
right?
And so we naturally will fall to our flesh to preserve our flesh instead of letting the spirit of truth have its day. And when I ever had to talk with a kid, going back to my education days, this was one of the first things that I would tell them. I would say, hey, I'm gonna say some things, and I'm gonna tell you what I believe has happened. And I said, here's what I'm gonna ask you to do. I was like, your first inclination, that temptation is going to be to lie, because your flesh is gonna kick. I go, your flesh doesn't want to go through this consequence, and you will do anything in this moment to get out of it. I said, but what we don't see, what we can't get past, is when we do that. Man, we're just snowball effect.
Right.
Like we're creating more and more lies, and the consequences get bigger and deeper the more we go.
Deeper is the word I was thinking. You're digging deeper to get away from the light.
Yeah. I go, so I'm gonna tell you something. I said, I don't want you to answer me right away. I want you to take a minute. I want you to think through what I've told you, and I want you to kind of make sure. Now, I said, now if the truth is you didn't do this, tell me that. That's the truth, and we'll figure out. I go, I have no doubt the truth will come out. But you got to do your best in that first moment to get past that self-preservation and allow truth to have its day, because it does. You get hung up on it, and then you lie, and you have to keep lying, and then you have to invent new lies to cover up your old lies, and it's this cycle that will best you.
I mean, it's
until you expose it.
Exactly. So again, we used a reference with Adam and Eve in the garden, and Adam and Eve were physically with God. And Adam and Eve, who have seen all this perfection, who have seen God walking amongst them in the cool of the evening of the garden, and they knew all that, and they still, the first reaction of their literal nakedness was a covering.
Yeah.
And it's amazing that from the very beginning, our first knee-jerk reaction to being caught in something or in that whole area of victimhood or everything is to cover up, is to push off, is to deflect everything from the very beginning. Yeah. And it's amazing that all these years later, that's exactly our very first reaction.
Yeah. And the Bible tells us where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is freedom.
Mm-hmm.
And a part of what that's talking about is, one, not necessarily freedom from the temptation to sin, though over time, as the Spirit works in our hearts, it does become a little bit easier to overcome some of that temptation. But living in that truth, living in that integrity, man, you come out of Satan's shadow of lies. You get to walk in the light. You get to walk in truth and integrity. You don't have to worry about someone going to find out.
You don't have the weight. You don't have the burden.
You have this weight of
right.
Is anyone ever going to find out about this? But man, when we walk in the Spirit and we walk in the light, and we say, yes, this is what happened, or even not even making that choice to begin with, or you don't even have that weight to begin with, man, there really is freedom in that and walking out in that light. But man, we have so much more to talk about.
I hope you wrote all that down.
Yes.
That was good stuff. And as always, I didn't say our names at the beginning, but as always, my name is Adam Cook, and with me is Pastor Dustin McKinney. Guys, we're going through the Victim series. Stick with us for more. Thank you so much for joining us.